Hello everyone. Well, this is my first layout ever, and I've been watching lots of videos. Special mention to Everard Junction, because that's probably who I've watched the most. In fact, if I haven't watched every one of his videos several times, I'd be surprised. So hopefully I've learned something. So I've been looking at what kind of board to do, and the board I'm actually making is for a 4-year-old's birthday. This boy is obsessed with trains and Thomas the Tank Engine, so I'm going to make a Thomas round and round layout for him. I've been looking at sizes and designs, and I'm going to base it on the track mat size that Hornby do, the smaller of the two, which is the size of the board I've just bought here from a well-known do-it-yourself store. It should just fit the track on, so I'm doing the Thomas set that comes with track extension A, and I'm going to add extensions A to F, then a little bit more track. Well, that's the plan. As you can see, I've had an 8-foot by 4-foot board cut down. It's 9mm hardwood ply and some wood for the frame at the bottom there. What I don't know yet is I've just bought a new car, which is technically bigger than the last one, but the door aperture at the back actually is narrower. So when I get outside, this is just before closing, I'm going to discover that I can't fit it in the car. So the guy who does the cutting has turned his machine off half an hour early, won't switch it on again, which is a bit annoying. So I'll go back the next day, get it cut, and I'm going to have to cut it right in half, get it home, and then fix it together again. Interesting, not sure I'm going to do that yet. Which also means I'm going to have to hire a van to get it to the boy's house, which is 24 miles away, for a surprise birthday present. So, fun times, and here we go. Okay, I finally got the wood back home, and I'm now attempting to glue those two pieces together. And I'm putting the frame pieces on, and I'm adding screws all the way along as well to make it as strong and firmly attached as I can do. And then we'll see how it goes. Well, much to my surprise, the framing wasn't too difficult. It feels fairly secure now. I've just got to let it all dry. And then I'm going to put some felt across the bottom, because it will be resting on the boy's mum's dining table until she gets fed up with it. So it also has to be able to stand upright when all the modelling's finished and be transported in the van. Not sure if that's going to work very well, but that's the plan. Well, here's the board with all the felt completed, and it's around the outside too, so he doesn't get any splinters from the wood in his little fingers when he's using it. I've tried lifting it, and it's a bit bulky, but I'm going to be able to manage it on my own, I think, although there's nothing on the other side yet. It's just the bare plywood. So the track's laid. It all looks to be fitted correctly. I'm going to change the inner track where Thomas is approaching now, and from just about where he is, I'm going to take it slightly inwards and add 2 sidings where I can put, hopefully, maybe a station. So to try and reduce some noise and also raise the track to make it a little bit more realistic when I put down the ballast, I've added track, or I'm starting to add cork, which I'll put around every bit of the track. And then I plan to start the dreaded ballasting, which I'm quite anxious about. Well, I've completed the dreaded ballasting. It was a bit messy. I managed to slap glue about everywhere, and like everybody else, I mixed PVA with water with a drop of washing up liquid. I did find it really stressful, and some of it ran a bit as well on the board. Some of it ran off the board, made a bit of a mess on the flipping carpet. But eventually I got there, and it's dried nice and hard now, and it looks okay. It looks messy from here actually, but I think when the rest of the stuff's on for a first time effort, it's probably better than I expected, and I actually have ran trains on it. That still works amazingly. So finally I'm putting together some of the buildings for the railway. They're not all of the same kind of construction materials, which may look a bit odd, but it's the first one, and I'm thinking about how the final layout might look. I decided to make myself a tunnel, which you can see on the left hand corner, and I've used Shaper Sheet to do that. That's from Woodland Scenic. So eventually it looks like bandage, with tin foil on the back, and you shape it how you want it. Then you put on the shaper sheet plaster, which you brush on wet, and it dries hard as a rock. And I made a cardboard design as a frame underneath, and now it's all dry. What I've done is pulled the cardboard out. Well, I've got to do the wood's still bare underneath. That was a mistake on my part. I should have painted it or done something with it first, but I'll have to add that later. But it looks reasonable, and it's a nice feature. I've also added at the bottom right hand corner a small hill, and I'm going to put a bunker, like a World War II bunker, on that. And on the top left, I thought I'd add a windmill, and I'm going to put that on a slight mound and probably make that into a little field, maybe. Not sure yet. The black tool you can see with the wire from it in the middle is a little USB vacuum, and it's been really helpful. I'll plug it into the mains actually from an adapter, but it's really good for taking up that ballast, because you can actually start from fresh and then vacuum stuff up and then reuse it if you just, for example, getting up ballast or just getting up the fake grass. Pretty cool tool, and I saw Everard Junction guy doing that, so that's where I got the idea from. Okay, well, I decided it'd be nice to have a little pond. It's a bit artificial, of course, because it's all raised because the board's a bit flat, but just as like a central feature instead of having a roundabout, because the plan is that's going to be a little car parking area which will come over the crossing, can do a loop and a little car park on the left hand side where there'll be railway buildings. I've also added a little mound for the windmill to sit on, and I've painted the windmill. And what was useful is I had some stickers for brick left over from some of the Hornby buildings, so I've used that the base, so I'm quite pleased with the windmill. It looks fairly decent for me. Okay, I've added the car parking area now, which is just plaster with some wooden scenic stuff, and around the outside it's like a tape you can stick down to frame the size you want, and the idea is you make it that thickness. To be honest, it was a pain in the ass, and the tapes, as you can see, is quite hard to get up, so I regret using it now. However, it doesn't look too bad. It's not completely smooth. I'm going to have to sand it a little bit, but that's the shape of the road, and the cars, of course, are quite small because they're scale, so they'll fit on that area on the left. On the open area to the very left, before it gets to the tunnel, I'm going to make it into like a little remembrance garden and put a war memorial. So quite fitting. Okay, I've added some more buildings, some new ones I bought. These were bought already done, completed, painted, and again the different construction materials, which looks a little odd. There's a mismatch of buildings, but I don't think the 4-year-old will notice, and it's not something that concerns me too much as a noob to all this railway modelling. I've put a little kind of signal shed there. I'm not sure if it's a signal shed, and then I've decided to build the platform into the side of the hill, so I've extended the hill a little bit, and that's one of the sidings, and the other one will be, which is just above, a little engine shed. Like I say, I've been quite busy. I've painted like an underlay colour on most of the board now, which is that green you can see, so when I add some grass to it, it'll look a bit more natural, hopefully. Most of the buildings are in their final position. The signal box on the right hand bend platform is not going to stay there. That's going to go at the end of the platform next to the tunnel. And I've added some texture to the road that will form the little car park and the loop around the pond. So it's progressing slowly. It's starting to look a bit more like a model now, albeit an amateur model. Well, the grass has been added now. I've only just done it. I put some PVA glue down first, then used a tea strainer to scatter the grass around, and then I'm going to spray it with some watered down PVA at a later date. I've added the windmill onto its little mound. There's no fencing there. There is going to be a little sheep field in that corner. The buildings are all in their final locations now, except for the huts that are going to go on these curved platforms. And I'm going to have a couple of platform covers on the right one. The bunker's in its position as well to look down the track. And as you can see, I haven't started the underneath or sides of the tunnel just yet. Well, the PVA and water solution is now drying. You can see the car park looks a bit damp because I put it on there too. I've added shrubbery everywhere, and I've also added some fake water into the pond. I was going to do some static grass, but it's for a 4-year-old, so I'm not going to now. I'm going to save that for a project I'm going to do after this for myself, because I'm quite enjoying this modelling log. I'm not particularly good at it, but you know what, it is quite therapeutic. So I've got a stressful job when I'm not doing this, and it helps. Okay, so here are the vehicles I'm going to put on the board. The boy that it's for also loves cars, but all these vehicles have significance for me. So I was a boy, late 60s, early 70s, and these are the vehicles that were around at the time. So the ice cream van was because every Sunday we used to have an ice cream van drive up our road. My dad used to give me a bowl to go out and pay for it to be filled for us all, so we always look forward to that. The Land Rover's really because of my time as an army medic, driving Land Rovers a lot. The Austin 1300 at the bottom is the car that my sister had. She's 10 years older than me when I was a boy, so I remember that until I got wrecked by hitting a deer. My favourite car as a boy, and one of my favourites still, was the E-Type Jag, so I had to put one of those on. And my dad had a Morris Traveller, so I've got fond memories of him taking me and my sister to sail boats in it. Most of the time it was spent, of course, broken down on the drive, like most of our cars as a kid. And the boy loves buses and taxis, so I had to put those in, even though they're actually London. Well, now it's pretty complete. So I've got a series of images of pretty much the final version. I've added trees, I've added the War Memorial, I've added all the buildings in the final locations, some of the platform detail. I haven't bothered painting them individually because, like I say, it's a 4-year-old. I'm guessing he's going to break some of these off within about 2 minutes. Put some shelters down there. The sheep are finally in the field too. I quite like those. They're very delicate. It took me ages to glue them in. And I can have 2 trains running at the same time, but they can also cross tracks and also go onto any of the 3 sidings. So yeah, for a first effort, I am quite pleased, and I've really enjoyed doing it. So much so that I'm probably going to go do something else for myself once I've given it him. What I've got to do now is rent a van, get it to his house and in and operating without him knowing. So the plan is, because it's in the summer, we used to get him outside, then bring him in to show him and hope he likes it. So I'm going to finish with a few short videos. My video skills are just as bad as my modelling skills, so I do apologise, but to give you an idea of what the train's like running, which he will see. And then I may finish with his reaction. I hope you've enjoyed it, and here are the last few films of me trying it. Oh, that's just Christmas present, by the way.